Hi dancers, welcome back to my channel. I'm Claudia Dean and today I have a very interesting video for you all. Basically for a long time now, I've been collecting my favorite hacks to prevent blisters. Obviously when you go on point, it's pretty inevitable, like you're gonna get a blister, but at the same time, I feel like there's so many different things you can do nowadays to prevent them and strengthen and toughen up your feet. So that's the most important thing before you go on point. So you prevent blisters. I feel like these hacks haven't really been done on YouTube before. Well, at least I don't think they have. So I'm sure a lot of you are gonna really appreciate this. So I think let's just get stuck into it. Make sure you subscribe, comment, like this video if you enjoy it. And actually at the end of the video, if you can comment down below what your favorite hack was. This first hack, I feel like a lot of you might already know, but there is still some students that come in through my doors and I tell them about this hack and they have no idea. So I feel like it's something I have to put in this video, and it's to do with methylated spirits. So obviously be very careful when you're dealing with something like this, and I'd recommend if you're young, make sure you have a parent help you with this step. Prior to going on point, so about 6 months prior, about 3 times a week, I would actually soak my feet in methylated spirits. I feel like when I was about to go on point, so 6 months prior, I'd only do it for about 30 seconds and it seemed to work really well for me. Obviously, I don't know the details behind that, so if you want to hold your feet in there for longer or less, that's completely up to you. So I would simply get a container, then put my methylated spirits in. When I was shopping for this, it is violet methylated spirits, so I don't know what's gonna happen to my feet. I don't think you're really meant to buy the violet one. Normally it's clear. I don't know why this one's colored, but look, I'm gonna put my feet in there and let's just see what happens. I think this is like child-proof. Claudia Dean proof. Okay, so let's pour it in. So I'd only pour a little bit. By the way, you don't actually need to do the container version of this either. You could simply just grab a cotton ball, dab it, tip it upside down, put some on the cotton ball, and then dab it on your feet as well. That's another really good way of doing this too. But I really wanted to toughen up the whole of my upper foot because I found I got like a lot of blisters if I didn't do this. So, and actually before I do this, I want to say one thing as well. If you have fresh blisters, this stuff can really burn, okay? So just be warned that if you have a fresh blister, it's gonna hurt. Obviously, if you have no blisters, it's not gonna hurt. It's just about dipping your foot in and that's it. So I'm dipping my foot in. I'm just gonna hold it in there. And I might just like swish it around my toes. At least my feet aren't turning purple. Also, just a side note, this would also be good for contemporary dancers so you don't rip your feet or get target burns and all of that, because I know that's quite a common thing for contemporary dancers too. So I do that on one foot. Oh, it stinks. Oh. It's like so strong. I'm just gonna use this CHUX. I'm actually using this CHUX for another hack, but I'm just gonna use this to dry my feet off. Oh, it actually smells. It just smells so strong. Then my other foot, let's go. So a couple of times a week doing that would be amazing, especially before you're about to go on point or if you're already on point, just to toughen up your feet. Okay, now hack number 2, I love this one and it smells really nice, so that's good. So it involves baby powder. So I've just got the regular Johnson's baby powder, and basically I feel like baby powder absorbs sweat and moisture. So what I would do is I would actually pour heaps of baby powder in my ouch pouch like this. Oh gosh. There we go. And then, oh, it smells so good. And then I would put my ouch pouch on, and I would find that when I'm dancing, because the baby powder was absorbing the sweat, therefore my feet wouldn't rub, therefore I wouldn't really get blisters. So I feel like this step works really well. And then obviously from there, you would put your point shoe on, like so, just like that. And also, I was always someone that would wear my ouch pouch underneath my tights because I did all these, little hacks. So look at my toes now. They've got baby powder on them because I used to do all these types of hacks. So I couldn't really wear my tights underneath my ouch pouch because then otherwise I wouldn't be able to do all this. Right, the next hack, I don't actually have it with me because it's very hard to buy, and it's something that I used to get when I was just in the company because they used to have like loads of it. But I'm pretty sure if you're from Europe or America, it's very easy to access. People from Australia, you're gonna have to order it from overseas and get it shipped to Australia. It's something called second skin. Now, a lot of you might go, and I'll put a few photos on the screen so you can see what it looks like. Basically, they use it for actual 3rd-degree burns, apparently, like the doctors and people like that use it. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I was told at the time. And if you have a blister, seriously, you put second skin on top of your blister, you then tape it, and you go on Pointe, and you do not feel a thing. It is absolutely amazing. So that's probably more of a hack that if you have really bad blisters, second skin is definitely something you should try and get your hands on, because it saved me so many times. Like, I remember there was some shows of Swan Lake when I was a student, and I had to go to the company to perform with them, and I remember I had these excruciating blisters, and I literally was nearly going to say I couldn't do it because my whole foot was like covered in blisters. And then I remember I got my hands on these second skin and I didn't feel one thing when I was on stage. Like, it's actually amazing. So if you can get it, it's definitely a lifesaver. What I'll do is I'll try and find a link for second skin for those of you that are in Australia, and I'll put it in the description box if I can find one. Otherwise, it might be worth just checking your local pharmacy too, because they might still have them there. But obviously I'm not on Pointe anymore, so I don't really need it as such. The next hack is about avoiding pedicures. So I know getting your feet pampered and getting pedicures is, a fun thing to do, but when you're a dancer, you want to have your feet as tough as possible. So as soon as you go for a pedicure and they, shave the dead skin off, shaving that dead skin off obviously then is going to create more blisters, because then you've got almost like that baby skin underneath. So it sounds really gross, but as a dancer, you sort of want as much dead skin on your feet as possible, because they're the tough bits. And I remember, like, if I used to get a pedicure when I was like on holidays or something like that, as soon as I got back after holidays and I'd start putting my pointe shoes on again, my whole feet would be covered in blisters, because it was that fresh skin underneath. So I would definitely try and avoid pedicures for that reason. Now, this is a pretty obvious one, and I feel like a lot of you are already going to know this, but once again, there have been a few people that didn't know this before I told them. Taping your toes. You want to tape your toes not when you get a blister, but you want to prevent getting blisters. So taping your toes before you go on Pointe is the best idea. If you know that your skin is soft and if it's not very tough, it's something I'd really recommend. So I always just used to use this one. It's a Elastoplast, I think that's how you say it, just the classic one. I think there's a brand that actually has released a beautiful soft one. So it's like really easy to get on and off, but then it still stays on your toes when you're working. Like, I've had a few students tell me about it. Can't remember the name of it, but if you can't get your hands on it, this is the next best. And honestly, as simple as this, rip it. That's why I love this one. You can just rip it. And then literally tape it, boom. And I would do that with every single toe. So I'll show you now. The next hack is on-point orthotics. So I've spoken in a few of my videos about on-point orthotics, but basically on-point orthotics are a custom-made pouch that actually sit perfectly inside your pointe shoe. So I'll just show you on my toes. I'll do it on my left foot. So as you can see, there, I'm gonna place it on. Also, the supple EPO material that's used here, that actually prevents friction and therefore prevents blisters. So that's why they are super handy if you're someone that suffers from blisters. Also calluses, because I was someone that got quite big calluses too, which obviously a problem as well, because they start to rub and then they can also cause corns later on. Some of you might not be familiar with corns, but they are, I've heard actually that they are a blister that forms underneath your skin, and they are dead painful. Like, they are so painful, and I used to get them all the time. So with EPOs, obviously the material that's used prevents all of those things. And obviously, as you got to remember, we're all different dancers and we've all got different body types. So our toes are the same, really. So obviously EPOs, they're designed in a way that for your foot, your weight will be evenly distributed between all 5 toes, which is very important when you're on Pointe. This is why I love my EPOs. And of course, you can't feel any pain. Like I've always said this, but when I go up, seriously, there's no pain when I use my EPOs. So make sure you check out their Instagram and contact your local EPO fitter if you're interested in getting yours, because I know there's certain fitters around the globe, so make sure you get in touch with them today. And now another hack to prevent pain is obviously using your PRIMA Pro pads. So I just demonstrated a little hack that you can use the Johnson's baby powder in these, which is good, but these are obviously going to prevent pain as well. And this leads me to my next hack too. Oh, I'm like covered in baby powder. When I was a young student, this is because it was a super cheap option, I used to use CHUX as my ouch pouches because it would absorb sweat. So I'll just show you. I would literally fold the CHUX in half, place my foot in the middle, and then do one side, the other side, and then fold it down like 2 ears, like that. And then I would put my Pointe shoe on. The only thing with the CHUX is sometimes you might have to tuck it up because you can see it coming down in your Pointe shoe. So I'll just show you what I mean. See how you can see it? So you might even have to cut your CHUX, probably depends on the size that you get, but that's what it would look like. But I used to find this would work really well. So you can see there, this used to work really well because again, it would absorb sweat. So that's a good little hack. Actually, one thing I forgot to say, there was a period when obviously I was putting it on all the time for all my classes and it turned my tights slightly blue. So just be warned, maybe when you do this hack, wear an old pair of tights because I don't want to be responsible for people's tights turning blue. Another hack is using toe spacers or even these bunion guards. So I always feel if you have more space in the end of your shoe, obviously then it's more likely to rub, then of course that causes blisters. So you sort of want to make sure that when your foot's in the shoe, there's less space as possible at the top of your shoe. So I would use these. The only problem with these is sometimes my toes would go numb, so I'd only really use this if I really needed my foot to be filled out at the top of the shoe. Or, of course, alternatively are the super spacers, and you can simply get them from Block as well, and they work really well. So putting one between your second toe and big toe, and also perhaps your second last toe and your pinky toe. Now this is another hack. Obviously when you get fitted for your Pointe shoes, this is a hack that I think a lot of people don't look out for, but it's really important that you do. When you're actually getting your Pointe shoes, you need to make sure that all 5 toes are fitting into this part of the box. So there and there. For some reason, I find a lot of people get fitted with their 4 toes fitting in and then their pinky toes sitting like all the way up here, which obviously then is going to cause a rubbing effect, and then of course you're going to get a blister. So I'll just show you how tight your feet should fit into a box so you can see exactly what it should look like. So as you can see here, when I put on my shoe, how seamless does that look? Like an ill-fitting shoe would look like this. I'll give you an example. And you'll be surprised how many people get their shoes like this. Can you see how that, I mean, I'm not very good at demonstrating this because these shoes fit so well on me, but can you see how there it's sort of creating like a curve? That's an example of what your shoes shouldn't look like, because there, my pinky and my knuckle is like sticking out of the box. So that's where the box finishes, right there, and you can see my knuckle and my pinky's all the way up here. So you have to make sure your pinky is definitely deep and down into that box part of the shoe to avoid getting blisters. And then you'll see, I'll go on Pointe now just to show you what it should look like. See there? Then the lucky last hack is more so to do with, I think, dancers that don't wear like your PRIMA Pro pads or EPOs, or they don't have anything really covering the top part of their foot. You need to make sure that, you know, your tights, you see this seam here? You want to make sure that that is not rubbing in over the top of like one of your knuckles or over the top of one of your toes when you put them on, because again, that has the potential to rub and cause a blister. So for example, if I was to put this tight on top of my foot, I would make sure that that seam is literally running across the tippy toes or even slightly underneath of my toes there. So there's no chance of them rubbing. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video on how to prevent blisters. I think these are my top tips for sure, and hopefully one of these will work well for you. Let me know below which one you love the most, and of course, I will see you next week in my next video. Love you all lots. Bye.